Okay, y'all. Hey, welcome back to another episode of We All Might Need a Little Therapy. I'm your host, T, and this is a special episode because this is my first visual podcast episode. I don't know how I feel about that yet, but we're here. And I'm super excited for this episode because we have one of my favorite people ever here today. My friend JJ is here, and
Hello, everybody.
yes, and just to give a little introduction, JJ, we work together. Y'all
We
don't need to
do
be in our business, so I'm not gonna say the
that
company.
as much as y'all gonna get. We work together.
That's it. But JJ is an amazing, amazing asset to the company who is a part of something that's very important in our climate, of course. And I met JJ at a development day at our job. And from the moment I met JJ, I was like, she's a real one. She's a real one. Which is perfect for this episode because this episode will be about showing up authentically as you. And ever since I met JJ, I felt like she was always being herself. And it was super welcoming for me because I felt like the people in corporate world were just not being themselves. And it's draining to a certain extent. So, JJ, oh, you look frozen. Why do you look
Am I?
frozen?
I'm not. You're not frozen. I'm not frozen. At least on
Can
my
you hear
side.
me? Oh, what's happening? I don't know what's happening. Okay. What is a podcast without
Yeah.
errors and tech?
It
What?
literally just came back because it was frozen.
Okay. Do you look blurry to you or do you look okay?
No, I look okay. You look blurry to me.
Jesus. Okay, y'all. It's the first visual, so of course we're gonna have some problems.
Listen, we're gonna figure it out. I mean, if you can't see it, you will hear it and feel it.
You
So
will
it's
hear
all good.
it.
It's all good.
Okay.
It's all good.
But JJ, I wanted to pass it to you just to give any introductions or anything you wanted to say before we get into the episode itself.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, one, I'm honored to be a part of your podcast, to be the first visual part of your podcast. So that's super dope. I'm a podcast fiend. I listen to everything from the ratchet stuff to political stuff to self help and self awareness podcasts, as well as sports. I love sports. But a little bit of introduction about me. JJ, everybody calls me JJ at work, my dad, my siblings, everyone calls me JJ. I'm a mom. I am a wife, mom of three boys, a wife of 18 years, corporate girly, corporate baddie for the better part of 30 plus years. And to your point about the authenticity and trying to navigate that through corporate life, it could be exhausting, it could be draining, it could be a gauntlet, right? It could be a steel cage death match. Like you don't know kind of where and how to
Oh,
do it.
Jesus. Yeah.
So I'm honored for you to ask me some questions. Let's have a dialogue and, help some of your listeners and maybe now visual
Yeah.
visual components and visual participants get a feel for what this conversation is about.
Yes. Oh, amazing. If you can't tell, she does this for a living. Okay? Put some respect on it. So, just the premise of this episode, as I said, we're going to be talking about showing up authentically as yourself. I feel like this is so important to talk about now
Mhm.
because a lot of people are not being themselves.
That
And
part, literally that part.
a lot of people don't feel comfortable being themselves or don't know who they actually are because for so long we've been trained to show up as a certain type of person.
Sure.
And I think it's done a lot of harm to our just humanity. And these days I find myself trying to get back to the humanity of folks and
Hmm.
just pass the barrier that's okay, you're presenting this way because you are conditioned to.
Right.
I think in certain situations, in certain environments, you have to present a certain way, but there's a balance and a harmony to that. You don't have to completely eradicate yourself. You can still keep pieces of yourself authentic. And I don't think many people know how to do that. So I just want to speak a little about your, I guess, journey with showing up authentically as yourself. And I'll give a little bit about my journey with that because I'm still learning, to be honest. I'm not perfect.
Yeah.
But I just, when I met you, it was so refreshing because I genuinely have never heard someone talk the way they would normally talk in a corporate setting. And I thought it was so refreshing because I speak like this everywhere I go. I don't change my voice to my knowledge,
Right.
but I know I have in previous settings. And so I think it's amazing that you've been able to retain your integrity in a space like that. So I just want to walk through how
Yeah.
we got here. So, y'all got my notebook. All right. We got some questions. Let's get into the first question. All right.
Sure.
So the first question I have is when did you realize you were different? And what I mean by that is when did you realize, oh, I'm not putting on a mask. I'm showing up as myself and I'm different because everybody else here has a mask on. So when
Yeah.
was that realization for you?
So, back a little bit more background on JJ. So, I'm first generation American. My parents are from the West Indies. They're from Barbados. They're from the Caribbean. And so, navigating that and living in, people always say, "Oh, JJ, you're from New York." I'm like, "No, I'm from Brooklyn." It's a whole different beast. So, all my BK listeners and watchers, y'all know what it is. But growing up in a Caribbean household, there was an expectation, and I don't say that to say there's not an expectation in any other home. I just know what the expectation was in my home. And my parents were married 53 years before my mom passed away, and
Wow.
it wasn't always sunshine and rainbows. I remember at my wedding, my mother said, "Every day won't be rainfall, but every day won't be sunshine." And navigating a half a century with someone, you would imagine there's some ups, some downs, and there's some concessions that need to be made, and some things. And I say that because I watched everything I am as a woman was because of who I had a model, and it was my mom. Right, my
Yeah.
mom was 5'8", dark brown skin, tall, just statuesque, and she would walk in a room, and my father would walk with her in the room with his hand in the small of her back, and they would walk the room and everybody would look at her, and I'm just like, I don't know what that is, but I want to be able to do that.
Be that.
Right, I didn't know what it was at all. And I'm not sure that my mother and I ever had like a sit down conversation of who you should be. It was more about you model the behavior, right? And my mother, while we have all of these kind of stereotypical roles in the home and all of these things,
Yeah.
my mom was the backbone of our family. My dad was a breadwinner. My mother would say that to the day she left this earth, that Basil was always the one. He was a great provider, right? And I think watching her navigate not only with children, with stepchildren, because my dad had children before he met my mom,
Yeah.
and then again showing up in a country that is not yours and having to navigate that. She gave me a lot of direction without knowing it, right?
Yeah.
And mommy always would always be like, "Don't tell all them people your business." That's like, mommy. I was like, "Well, mommy, I have to talk to these people.
Somebody. I gotta talk to
I got to
someone.
say something." And she's like, "You know what I mean?" And I didn't know what she meant. And it wasn't. It was always about not playing small, not
Yeah.
freely just giving away all of your intellectual property, understanding partnership, understanding being utilized versus used. And I often ask people that I come in contact with and speak with, people like, "Use me how you want." I'm like, mm-mm, you need to understand the definition between and difference between utilization and being used, right? And so, and partnership versus being used. And so for me, I've always kind of felt loved, felt beautiful, felt worthy. And as a dark skinned woman
Yeah.
with thick black hair and used to have locks and all of these things, it's like I never didn't feel beautiful. So that wasn't a hang up of mine. Like I wasn't seeking something from outside that I wasn't getting at home. The
Right.
love that my father and my mother poured into me, I tell people I often reminisce about growing up with daddy and understanding that I married my father because my husband is very similar with with our children that like my father was with me. And
Yeah.
so like pouring into you, like my father never told me I needed to be something. He just told me I needed to be the best something. So if I chose to be a sanitation worker, he'd have been like, just be the best sanitation worker. And I remember that specifically because I was like, why I gotta be a garbage man? Like, like what's good with you? Like, I can't be like that's all you see for me. But
I
I
can't be the
digress.
president.
Yeah, I was like, I digress, right? Like, we ain't going to like Secretary of State. You got me at sanitation worker. But I understood what he was saying because, again, I think we put a lot of stock into happiness and keeping up
Yes.
with the Joneses' happiness and how I should show up to keep up with the Joneses to be happy. Like it's a whole little
Yes.
bit of a rat race, and you're in this wheel spinning. And so for me, it was I never knew how to not show up like this. I've had to temper showing up as JJ because depending on who's in the room, they may see it, black women have a lot of A's. They're angry and they have an attitude and they're aggressive. And
Jeez.
I've kind of tried to change the A's to assertive, to assured, to accountable. Because if anybody else other than this brown skinned girl walked in the room and had that same kind of zest and zeal and approach, they'd be like, man, that person is they on the ball. But like when it comes out of this face and out of this mouth, it's like she got an attitude, and it's like, wait, how did that change? So really showing up consistently, and I think about being yourself is about being consistent. You can't be this way one day and then something else, and because now you're sending mixed signals, you're sending
Right.
different personalities, and people can't receive that. But if you can be consistently you, I think then you can show up as authentically you, if that makes sense.
Lovely. Absolutely. Consistency is key. I mean, for me, like being in my 20s, my mid 20s at this point, it's just like I'm changing so much, but I still feel like the same Tiana. Like I still feel like I have the same morals and values that I always carried with myself. Some have changed based on just education and learning more things, but I've always been the Tiana who's sensitive and who cares about the people around her, who wants to show up as my best self and wants the best for the people around me. So I definitely do resonate with that. Uh, I think it becomes hard once you like have it abundantly shown that you are not. I mean, as a woman and as a black woman, there's a certain level of we don't want you here that goes around, and
Mm,
I think for me, I've tried to change myself in certain situations because I'm like, no, like I am meant to be here, I am valuable here. But that was something I was missing in myself that I think I didn't get from maybe like childhood. So that would be like trauma just showing up from
that's fair.
things that I haven't settled. But I do think there's a consistency to showing up as yourself because you have to be confident that you being yourself is enough.
Yeah.
And I think it's beautiful that you were able to be told that I don't need you to be anybody else but JJ from
Hmm.
childhood. Like I think
Yeah.
that's a beautiful thing because I think a lot of black children are told, well, you can't do this, you can't do that, for their survival. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And
Yeah.
so it becomes like a well, I can't do this and I can't do that, so I can't be myself here. Like this is not really who I am. So you
Yeah.
end up showing up as somebody else.
Yeah,
So,
I think that's fair. I think there's a lot of comparisons. I mean, I grew up in a house. There were six of us, and three girls, three boys, and you had to fight for your right to party. You know what I'm saying? You had to figure it out and be like, "Look at me," and whatever. And I'm like, "Nah, I'm good. I'll be back here." And I'm kind of
yeah.
still that way. Although, if you talk to my siblings, they'll feel very differently. They be like, "JJ be trying to be in the middle." I'm like, "I really don't know." They
You
be
really
like,
don't,
I'm like,
though.
I really don't. And I'm like, I may end up there.
Yeah.
And because again, about the consistency, I'm an extrovert introvert. I can
Yes.
do the crowds and the mingling and all of that. I can do that all day.
Yeah.
But I really prefer to just be by myself and kind of do the things that makes JJ happy.
Yeah.
But yeah, the comparisons happen. And I mean, I think again, it happens in every household where you might have that stellar kid and then you're the one that's coming up behind, or and it's like, well, why can't you be like
Yeah.
Sharon? And it's like, because I'm not Sharon. You know what I mean? And just like love me. And I often think about that with my mom and my sister and I, because my sister is wicked smart, beautiful, smart, and just an intellectual, not just intelligent, but an intellectual. And
Yeah.
I often thought she was mommy's favorite because mommy really valued education. And
Yeah.
Tanya has like a double bachelor's, a master's, and
Ooh.
that already that was heavy.
Heavy.
And and I successful in my own right, but I always knew that mommy valued that, and I thought I genuinely thought that she, and as a parent, I understood like she loved her more.
Yes.
And only to find out as we eulogized my mom and we didn't speak about what we would speak about with mommy, that she really did treat us in an equitable way. Mommy played to our strengths versus pitting us against each other for our shortcomings, if that makes sense, right? And
Yeah.
so, again, if I'm half the woman and mother that she was, I'm winning in all life because she definitely made sacrifices that my sister and I know about, but so many more that we probably don't. And that's
Right.
what made her great. And so I think to your point about kind of trying to bring the human back into humanity, mommy used to always say charity begins at home and ends abroad. Like it's, the rearing of the child, parents, and I know you're not a parent, but as a parent, we have so many expectations. We project so many things that we want our kids to be.
Yeah.
And I have so many traditions that I bring forth because of my background. But there are also things that I've chosen to kind of leave back there, right? Because
Right.
to your point about the traumas and the things that our children, it may manifest in them later. I got to think about who like 16-year-old JJ was, who 12-year-old JJ was. And similar to you, I still think I'm the same chick from
Same
Brooklyn.
person.
Like foundationally, fundamentally, I'm still that JJ. But to your point about with education and experiences, you evolve, right?
Yeah.
You're foundationally who you've grown up to be, or were taught to be, but your
Right.
life experiences make you more of a whole person. And so, yeah, I think there's so much about that that helps you figure out who your authentic self is. Because if I was still the same JJ at 25 that now that I am at 26, haha, a life would have failed me.
Almost a couple days.
A
I'll be
couple
26.
days, but like life would have failed me, and I would have failed myself
Yeah.
if I haven't grown in that time.
Yeah.
So, so yeah,
With that, I mean, I think maturation is an important part of it too
sure,
because hopefully you do evolve. And I think evolution is different than change. You know what I mean?
yep,
I think evolution is the intellectual part of it and the educational part of it because I think a lot of people, especially where I'm from Philly, And a lot of people from Philly that I know, specifically, because I don't want to speak for everybody in
Sure.
Philly, but a lot of people from Philly can't see past Philly. Like they can't see past that life. And if you're not confident and comfortable in yourself living in that city, you will become the city. Like you will. It's inevitable. And
Yeah.
so I think a big part of staying true to myself and who I am and showing up authentically is me was getting out of that space
Mm,
because I felt like I was becoming a part of it. And it just wasn't who I was.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and I love it for what it is and for what it was for me, but
Hmm.
it just wasn't who I truly am at heart. And to
Yeah.
be honest, I don't think America is as a whole. Like I just
I
don't.
know that's a whole
That's
never,
a whole other.
never conversation.
Maybe one day I'll live on the islands or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Listen,
We'll see.
it can
But
happen, friend. It can happen.
okay, you kind of answered this, but I guess we can go into a little more detail with this
Okay.
question. And I'll talk about my uh, experience with it. But my next question was, were you encouraged to be yourself as a child?
Yeah. And I think there, holistically, yes. I think there were moments, especially for my mom, with me, where, I've been working in corporate America since I was 18 years old, right? And so
Ooh,
she would be fearful of, I guess, me being swallowed up and me kind of, and not that she didn't trust me, didn't think that I was bright, but also kind of projecting some of what her experience may have been onto me and like,
right.
don't do this, don't do that. And I appreciated the advice. And sometimes I would come home and be like, Mommy, such and such happened. And she would go into a rant. And I'm like, okay, pause. This is just me talking to you. Like, this is not what I'm about to go say to these people. I like my job. I need my job. But I'm just kind of airing grievances, if you
See.
will. So,
Yeah.
um, but I was always encouraged. But I also think, as a parent, you always want your child to advance more than you, to be more than you are, and all of the things, and do better. Take what you've given them and fly with that, right? Admittedly, I don't know that my mother even knew what I wanted to do or wanted to be. I wanted growing up, I wanted to be a doctor, and I was like, so
Really?
this school thing. I was like, so y'all be in school till y'all like 35? Like, I'm cool. It's groovy though. And I love you. I can watch any kind of documentary. I can watch a surgery. I'm like, I love all that stuff. And then my father, because I really got interested in law and in history, and I still am very interested in law and history. And Daddy would be like, "You like to argue. You should be a lawyer." And I was like, "I don't like to argue. I like to debate." And there's a difference, right? And I like dialogue, and I like
Yeah.
intelligent dialogue, and I like respectful dialogue. Like, T, I understand that that's how you feel, and I respect that. I feel differently. I respect that. All right, can we go to brunch now? You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't need, I had a young lady who approached me the other day, and she was like, she's having an issue in her role, and she was like, I said, well, did you approach your manager about it? She was like, well, she's not very confrontational. And I was like, girl, it's not a confrontation, it's a conversation. It's two different kinds. Like,
Can
what are
we
we talking about?
can we
And
please?
I was like, bro, you gotta relax. Like, what are we doing? And so I've always been encouraged to speak up. Again, same young lady was like, I'm very vocal. And I was like, people that are vocal are saying words but not saying anything. I said, I'm very intentional with my words. Rarely, if ever, do I say, well, what I meant to say was, because
Yeah.
you don't know what I meant, you know what I said. And if you're going by what I said and you got the wrong interpretation, now maybe I need to think about the words that I've chosen, right? And
Right.
so for me, I've always been encouraged to be me.
Yeah.
But what I also say, and I think I've said this to you in different conversations, like, your authentic self may not belong at the company, right? And so
Ooh.
understanding it is okay to have or create the person that shows up at that space and share with them as much as you want to, or as little as you want to, because you need to protect self. Psychological safety is important, but you also in that same breath cannot expect something that you don't give. So if you are not transparent about something,
I
you
mean,
now can't be beefing about, well, they ain't telling me nothing. Girl, like, are we paying attention? Like, are we in the same space? Like, you cannot want what you don't give, but also be very clear when you give something, you might get that same thing back. So that authenticity, again, it's a word that we're throwing around a lot in safe spaces and all this. I got to share a space with you before it's safe. Like, I don't know you. And so, like, it's all of these things.
Do you see why I had JJ do this episode? Do we see?
It's just like, we got to think about this for a second. Like, is it really safe? And I say that to people all the time. It's like, JJ, can you be this to me? I'm like, okay, well, let's have a conversation. Do you know what you're asking?
Right,
Do you
right.
actually know what you want? Let's think about this. And so, going back full circle, it's like all of the lessons that I've learned, all the things that I watch my parents, my siblings, conversations, because all of us ended up in corporate America except for my youngest sibling, my very youngest sibling, he is a podcaster.
Yes, shout out to him.
And but my youngest sister, she teaches hospitality management, marketing. So she's in education. But so we've shared stories and leveraged experiences. But I think I can't encourage authenticity or be yourself if I then am not that. But I also again preach consistency. Again, authenticity doesn't need to look like JJ, right? Like, Tiana's authenticity may be very different, and that's fine. But there's not a model for authenticity, but the consistency in how you show up is probably just as important as the showing up.
I love that. I love that because it shouldn't look the same between
Right,
different people. Like it shouldn't. Your
right.
authenticity, it should be different from mine because we are two different people. So I love that. And I wanted to say, circling back to the question for me, I think a hard time I've had with this is like I was not encouraged to be myself growing up. I
When you
was not.
say that, yeah, when you say that, what does that mean? Because I think that's an interesting
Yeah.
perspective and your perspective. So never trying to diminish that, but I'm just trying to
Yeah.
understand for your audience and for myself, like, when you say that, what does that mean for you? And what did that look like for you?
Yes. Thank you for asking. So basically, I grew up with my mother primarily. My dad was always in my life. Do not get it twisted. I
Right.
lived with my mother though, and my sister until I was about 16.
Okay.
And then I moved with my father and my stepmother. And growing up with my mom was just tumultuous for a
Hmm.
lot of reasons, mostly because my mom had her own trauma that she was dealing
Mm,
with.
okay.
And I think inevitably, first of all, trauma is in our DNA. I believe that
Facts. I
wholeheartedly.
agree. I
And
agree.
so I think certain things are just passed down
I
through
agree.
genetics. Like,
Yeah.
and we don't realize it. I mean, we are living post slavery.
Hmm.
We are living post slavery
Well,
where
post
our,
physical slavery, there's a mental slavery that continues
hey,
to happen. So we'll leave it
hey,
at that.
yes, ma'am. So there's a whole, there's so much that we're holding on to that we
Yeah.
don't see. And I think growing up with my mom was just like she was so angry to me. And I hate to put that on a black woman, but that's how I felt as a child. I had a fear of my mom because if I didn't do something the way she liked, it was a problem. It was words that should not have been
Hmm.
said to a
Hmm.
child.
Hmm.
But growing up, what I learned was that this is how she was parented.
Right.
And so I learned that this was passed down behavior. This was learned behavior. And so they're at some point you start to forgive your parent because you see them as a person who
Sure.
just went through traumatic experiences like you are going through, and you don't necessarily have the same mindset when it comes to that. But I think I was always trying to be a good child for my mom.
Mm.
And that means I was not being myself completely because like I wasn't just having fun. I
Yeah.
wasn't just laughing and playing and joking. That was not what I was doing when I was with my mom. I was
Yeah.
very like scared to do certain things and very scared to say certain things, scared to look a certain way. We were raised in a Christian household.
Hmm.
And there's just certain things that come with that. Like,
Right. Right.
and so now living on my own and being my own person, I take care of this. This is I take care of me.
Absolutely.
So there's a lot of things I've had to be like, wait, I don't actually like this. Like I don't actually like being told I don't even know what an example would be, but it's just a certain level of impatience that
Mm.
I think was present in my childhood for a child. Like I'm a child at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I shouldn't know how to do everything. I
Yeah.
still don't know how to do everything and I'm an adult.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
and I think there was this expectation that I should know how to show up at certain places and be this certain person. And
Yeah.
I was one of those students who was, you need to get all A's. You need to
Mm.
have perfect attendance, even if you don't feel good to go to school. That was my life,
Yeah.
as it's many people's lives.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's necessarily healthy. I don't think you're able to show up as your authentic self because now I'm 25
Mm.
at work and I don't feel good, but I have this in my mind that hey, you need to go to work
Yeah.
because this was learned behavior to me. So
Absolutely.
now I had to get past the whole thing of like taking a day off just to do
Hmm.
nothing because I was just taught that you shouldn't take a day off if you don't need to.
It's funny because I think about taking a day off. I used to take a day off to do things, and I'm like, but you didn't really take a day off. You know what I
No,
mean? And
no, you didn't.
so I think women are, to your point, indoctrinated and programmed to be in the business of being busy,
Ugh,
right? And when you're not doing something, it's like, oh, girl, you lazy. And like, I mean, I grew up in a West Indian household. It's like, if you're sleeping past 9 o'clock, my mother be like, what you doing sleeping still? What you so tired doing? I should be like, being a 13-year-old
you
girl. Like,
did.
what you mean?
Like,
And it's like, Saturday is clean up and music on and all the things. But it is very much how I move. However, again, to the point about some traditions that you bring forward and some things you kind of leave behind.
yeah.
Having a 30, well, he'll be 30 next year, 30-year-old son that I remember being a teenager and sleeping hours. And I should be like, what's up with this kid? But he's growing, that's what teenagers do. So now I have a 16-year-old that,
Yes.
he'll get up at 7 o'clock in the morning and get cereal and make a bagel and do all the things. And then by like 10 o'clock, he's back asleep. And it's like, he sleep till noon or 1 o'clock. And I'm looking at this cat like,
I love that life for him. Love
you're like,
that.
sir. But so, I get it. And I think, I guess my next question or something to provoke thought is like, how have you, now that you realize kind of what that was for you as a child and now kind of manifesting in different ways in your adulthood, how
Yeah.
have you sought to kind of heal that bit so you kind of don't
Oh God.
bring it
Oh,
forward or continue to bring it forward? Then, because, those things manifest into relationship,
yes.
into, and it's so
Yep.
funny because people often say that, like, when I met my husband, I was good. Like, I was comfortable being with me, and it was me and my son, but I loved being with me, right? And I
Yeah.
didn't, when I met him, he added to my happiness, right? Versus made me happy because I
Yeah.
was already happy. But I think that's some of the work that needs to happen. And not that I was so much unhappy versus content with and understanding what my life was, and making it a life versus just living, right? Like it's a life. And
Yeah.
so like what steps have you taken? What steps are you thinking about taking to kind of
Oh,
heal that bit of you? She's like, girl.
AJ, that question. Okay, let me think before I speak
Sure.
because I would hate to. um.
And it's
Okay,
okay. I think it's okay too to not, I'm
have an answer. Yeah, I
yeah, I
mean,
think I'm 52, and I think people think you're fully formed, and it's like I learn a little bit about myself. I learn a lot about my husband every day. I'm like, who are you? Um, I'm like, Kat, you are not the dude. Um, I learned about my children. I've had very deep conversations with my oldest son.
yeah,
So sometimes you're in a space where you're learning to learn about who you are now or who you're becoming.
yes,
And I think learning is a lifelong thing. And it sounds very cliche and blah, blah, blah. But there's not only book learning, there is, learning about the spaces you want to occupy, the spaces you have to occupy, the spaces that you have to avoid. And the
absolutely.
people, whether they have the same blood running in your veins, same last name, the same whatever, like
Them people.
understanding self-care is all of these things, and understanding
Yes,
psychological safety, because that is my father, but if he hurts me with his words and his actions, he's still my father. I still love him. However, I will you know
what
take
I need to
space.
do.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'll take space. And I think, again, our culture is very, and I believe this: you honor your father and your mother, your days will be long in the land. I believe that wholeheartedly.
yeah.
What I also wanted to show up with my children is, while you are my child and a child, you are still a person. So I often tell my boys, I am going to curse, I am going to yell, I am going to scream,
Yeah.
but tell me the truth. But I am going to listen to you, and I'm going to listen to you. I may feel later that it's some BS and give you like the side eye, like, sir. But
Let's circle
I,
back. 'Cause what was that? Yeah.
I'd be like, but I'm going to listen to you. Versus, there were moments that I wasn't listened to, and as much as my mother
Yeah.
was amazing and my father were amazing, there were times that they did not listen well. They didn't actively listen, and I wanted to change that for my children.
Beautiful.
So, yeah, so the healing bit, I get, like, if you don't have the full answer, you haven't fully done that, or you're, beginning the work, or just identifying, like, oh, shoot, in talking to you, I just realized, like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
like, dang, I got some things to do.
I
So,
got some.
it happened.
I literally every day I say I have some things to like. Girl, what are we doing?
What are we
But
doing?
what are we doing right now, Tiana? Really?
Mm,
Um. But I think okay. Therapy is a huge thing. Therapy
very
is
so.
huge. Therapy is huge. I mean, it's a part of my podcast name. I don't just talk about it for no reason. Therapy showed me that I'm just a person. Like,
Facts. That part too.
and because I think we get into the main character energy thing where it's just like, well, I met a girl, and if you don't like it, oh well. But it's like, no, let's bring it down some. You're a
Yeah,
person.
you might want to humble it a little bit.
Yeah, humble yourself a bit. And I think therapy was huge because not that I wasn't already like thinking of the things I could work on, but I think therapy put a lot of things into perspective because there was somebody who did not know me but was viewing me as a human being, telling
Hmm.
me like, "So you do this and that's not okay." Like, or they did that and that wasn't okay, but the way
Right.
you chose to react
Mm,
wasn't okay.
yeah.
And I think therapy was huge in that regard because there's just certain things you're not going to come to on your own. It's
Sure.
just the reality of life. Like, you can't think of every single thing that's going
True.
to happen
Very
or
true.
everything you're doing or projecting. And I was projecting a lot. I was.
Mm,
So that also, the relationship aspect has been a huge part of my healing and just getting out of situations that did the opposite of healing for me. I have really, really serious codependent issues that I am
mm,
aware of.
okay.
And it's because I was raised so sheltered and
Mm,
so, like, by my father, by my grandparents. I was always sheltered and taken care of, to be honest. Like, they wouldn't let anything happen to me. And I think naturally there's an attachment that happens, right? So I've noticed how I've been codependent in certain situations, certain relationships, and how I'm like, wait a minute. Not only am I codependent, but this is kind of manipulative of me. Like, this is kind of like not right.
okay. Yeah.
I'm like having these expectations for people, and I'm showing up authentically. However, there's something in the back of my mind that's like, oh, if I just do this for this person, they're gonna love me, and it's a codependence that's unhealthy. Like, it's just
Mm,
not. It's manipulative because you shouldn't be doing things to like. I don't think you should do things to please people. I think you should do things out of genuine love
right.
for people.
Would you categorize yourself as a people pleaser?
Ooh, recovering,
Okay.
recovering,
Okay.
recovering, because I don't think I'm there anymore. But
Got
I
you. But you
definitely
definitely were.
I stayed in so many relationships that I should not have
Hmm.
been in, just based on the premise of this person does not respect me
Right.
or like me, for that matter. Like,
Got
they
you.
just don't like me. But the people pleaser in me wanted them to like me so bad and wanted to be that person for them so bad that I just was like, well, I'll do what I have to do. One day they'll come around. And I think there's a sort of manipulation in that. Like, you're not being authentic in that way. Like, you have an ulterior motive. You know what I mean? So that's been huge for me. I'm still trying to figure out the stuff. Honestly,
Listen,
like,
every day. I mean, I'm trying to figure it out every day, friend. I'm like, I
I
don't
don't
got
know.
it all figured
I
out.
don't know what we're doing really. But I honestly think, JJ, I won't be like, if I think when I settle down, which I don't even know what that looks like at this point. But
And it looks different for everybody. Trust.
yeah, I just don't think I'll be in this country for much
That's
longer.
fine. I mean,
I
listen.
genuinely don't think that.
Yeah.
Because I do feel like an uneasy feeling. I think we talked about this. Like, I feel uneasy
Absolutely.
every day being here
Yeah.
because it just does not align with my morals. The capitalism, the patriarchy,
Right.
I'm involved in it. Like, I have to be involved in it in order to survive.
Yeah.
However, I don't like it, and I can see how it affects me mentally and physically. Like, I don't want to be a part of it for much longer, to be honest. I don't know what that's gonna look like, but I genuinely feel like I will not be in this country for the rest of my life,
Hmm.
and I'm okay with that. I just
And do
don't
you
know.
think some of the feelings that you feel and the trauma that we've discussed, both on this episode, but in past conversations, is it tethered to this country? You believe,
I really do.
or the version of the country that you see? Because again,
Yes,
you're
yes.
25. You've seen 25 years. You've had, and again, I'm never dismissing your experience
No,
of it.
yeah.
And I literally had this conversation with a friend of mine yesterday because he and I are both post 50, and it's just like I've always been black, so that hasn't changed. And I've also been black in America, and that really hasn't changed for me. It really has changed in the last probably 2-3 years. In
Wow.
that the way the world looks, I'll say probably in the last 5 years, in the way the world looks, and the way I show up in the world, right?
Correct.
And so I think for me, it's more about. I agree that there are the way, especially now, the way that this country is showing up, and then the way the world looks at us. And when we leave this country and go out into the world, how they receive us, like how
Yeah.
we so have to separate our who we are from the ideals of leadership here. That's a lot. That's very strenuous. It's a lot to do. So I get that, but yeah, like like I said, my when people talk about home for me, it's Barbados for me, and yes, I'm American. Yes, I was born here. I understand that how people feel about this country, and but also know how people outside of this country feel about this country, and I don't dismiss their feelings either. So you know what I mean. So I hear you when kind of looking for a soft place to land and to feel attached to the earth. That the earth is pouring into you, you're pouring into the earth. Like I get that bit. I get that.
Yeah, and it's just more like I don't feel safe. Like I
Yeah,
don't
no,
feel,
agreed. I totally
and
get that.
I don't know if there's a place where I can feel safe, but I think
Right.
it's up to me. It's my responsibility to figure out, okay, maybe it is.
Yeah.
Let's see. But
Yeah.
like I think about my life and just my health,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah.
Um, and it's just I don't feel safe. My body doesn't feel safe here.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, we're on stolen land.
That
Like
that part.
we're
Let's start
living
there.
stolen land, and I can feel that. Like I don't even know. I wonder sometimes, like, do we get sick because this is not our natural habitat?
Mm-hmm.
Like, is that
Mm-hmm.
why we get sick?
Yeah.
Um, but also just like one day I may want to have a child. I don't want to have a child here. Like I
Right.
don't feel like this is a place to bring children into.
Yeah. Yeah.
My personal opinion. I just really
Agreed.
don't feel like
Totally
it's safe for
understand it.
children. I
Yeah.
don't. And moms, like I just as a woman, I don't feel like it's okay. I'm not gonna say okay, but I don't feel like it's safe for me to bring life into this place and my body feel like I don't want to pass down like that type
That
of
that trauma.
nervous system.
Mm-hmm.
Like, um,
That's fair.
it's very deep for me, but like I just I don't know if it can be different in other places. You know what I mean? I do think there's a sense of community in other places that's just not prevalent or existing here at this
Yeah.
point in life. I
Yeah.
mean, there's the community here is very much where is it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, I think it's interesting you said it's looked different for you in the past couple years. Um, do you feel like I guess growing up, like
Mm.
how was that experience as far as showing up authentically as you and in these spaces with the leadership that we had? Because I don't think it's much different, but we are in a dictatorship
Fact.
at this point. And so what does your like inner child feel about what's happening right now?
Yeah. The inner child, the older woman, feels like it's a scary place. Like, if I were to have a child now, bodily autonomy is not a thing. Like people are just. It is so interesting to have individuals who cannot bear children tell those who can how and why and when they should do that. You people, and again, JJ's opinion, fight me if you want to.
And fight me too,
Listen,
cause
because I'm like, y'all say y'all are pro life. I don't think so, because once the life gets here and it ends up how it ends up, like there are many thousands of children in foster care. If y'all were about this pro life, the life is not just when it's in my body. The life now is here. You've now made me have this child. So now what do we do? You've now left me to what with what resources? None. And then, now that I've had this child, you were pro life. Now that I had the child, you're pro choice. You're choosing whether to support me in this, the rearing of this child or not, the feeding of this child or not. I told you I could not have this child. I did not want to have this child. Now, and by no means am I saying that is a birth control mechanism, but A woman that comes to that decision does not come to that decision lightly. A woman that comes to that decision does not forget ever that decision. And so when she is now forced to give birth to the rape, give birth to the incest, or give birth to the child that she nor that her partner really wanted, and there was an accident, there was a breaking of a contraception, of a condom, or the contraception, she's the 1% that got pregnant on the contraception. Where's the support mechanism for that? But you, as this 75-year-old man, is telling this 16-year-old child this is what has to happen for the rest of her life. Because you, in your 75 years, have never done something to result in a mistake. And so I would like someone who is pro-life to tell me what pro-life means. Don't tell me about when you think life begins. Let's go with your premise that the child is born. What happens then? Because I don't have the means. I told you I didn't have the means. Like, I've given you all of my scenarios as to why not. But then as soon as I acquiesce and have this baby, that whole pro-life turns into pro-choice, and they choose whether to support you or not. So,
And also, y'all killing people. So how pro-life are we? Like, I'm sorry,
so
but it's people in Gaza.
yeah,
Y'all
right.
killing.
Y'all talking about trying to make,
What are we talking about?
y'all trying to make Gaza the next Abu Dhabi. Like y'all are wilding out here with your thoughts, and I'm like, these people just want to be on their land. But again, we know how this country was founded and when it was founded and what it was founded upon, and we can't expect them to do things differently in another space. They don't know how to operate any other way, right? And so all of that to say, I feel you when you say, looking for a space that you can occupy and feel like it is yours, that you are one with that space. Yeah, so I wish that for you. I hope that for you.
Thank you.
Because, yeah, that it's important. But yeah, it's definitely, my inner child cries for what the world looks like now. Like, the worst thing that I had to deal with is like being able to scrap and have hands. Because, you growing up, you fighting, you tussling. You know what I'm saying? But now it's a different space, and I think people always didn't like other people for the color of their skin, where they're from, because people, this country was built on fear, is built on hate, and right now we're in a space where fear mongering dictates everything. Everybody is being othered,
Yep.
and so my inner Jillian cries for those people because I don't know what that is, right? And there was a moment where you felt like there could be a shift, and not because we had a black president, but because people really wanted to step away from the fear mongering and the hate, and even his opponent at the time would not tolerate hate speech about him. So I think we were getting back to a space of humanity, but I think people got so afraid of this melanated face with the ethnic name. And then we got another one that came up and thought that she, excuse me, thought that
Bless
she, thank you, could come with her. I don't know that she's black. No, you didn't like her because she's educated down, spoke truth to power, and you and your fragility could not imagine a black South Indian Caribbean woman leading this country. But y'all got what y'all voted for, because he told y'all what he was going to do, and he doing it to all of y'all. And now y'all regret y'all vote. Ask me how many F's I give. I don't. I don't. So my little Jillian is cries for those people, cries for us a little bit. I wish it could go back a little bit to where it was, but I also think we have some work to do. So back to your point about community, we have to be willing to sacrifice. We have to be consistent. We have to be 10 toes down, and we don't need to backbite and Well, why is she, if that's the move and that's where we're going and that's where we're trying to go, well, let's go. As a community, cooperative economics. You're so busy about trying to get to this table, you forgot about the tables that always fed y'all. Them tables still there. But okay, it's up to you. I don't spend money or patronize any
Yeah.
space. I don't patronize spaces that don't respect me, don't respect my dollar, don't respect my existence. So, and I mean, it's hard. You gotta do your work. Gotta do your work.
Yeah.
But
It is hard. You gonna spend a little extra, okay?
sure, people are overpaying for their Rice Krispies right now. My girlfriend told me, she's like, JJ, I'm overpaying for groceries because I can't go to my Target or my wherever. She's like, but I'm doing it, and I was like, yeah. And I said, that's the only way we can hurt them with our dollar.
Just a side note, the amount of money I just paid for feminine stuff.
Listen, friend. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I didn't
Yes.
ask for this. I really
Yes.
didn't ask for this. It
Yes.
should be free.
Yeah.
I didn't
Literally, y'all
ask.
should be handing it out because the way it's going, I'm like, do I have to create my own feminine products company to be able to afford feminine products?
Like, I
Yeah.
don't want to go through this. I
Yeah.
don't.
Yeah.
Please.
And it's like, you want me to cry for this dude that's the richest man in the world because his stock is down 12 billion? Good. Good. Because the eggs still cost X amount of dollars.
I'm not even going to
But
give
it's the
him
fear
the.
mongering. And I think, we're in a space where how do you show up authentically now? I don't have to be super militant. I just need to be consistent. I'm not going to go to Target. I'm going to shop at Costco. I'm going to shop at I'm going to go to those places
Yeah.
until they show me differently
I
that
mean,
respect me.
at this point, we eating out the ground because
Yeah,
that's the only thing.
put some stuff on your patio. I grew up with a kitchen garden. My mother had cucumbers and lettuce and cabbage. And start to learn how to
Jesus.
start to learn how to grow this stuff.
We have no choice,
We don't.
literally.
We don't.
Okay. All right. I'm going
That
to
was our
ask one
tangent,
more.
everybody. That was our little tangent. Sorry.
No,
We
it
tend,
was going to
we,
happen
yeah,
regardless.
we tend to do that when we get together, but it's fine. It's fine.
No, I just have one more question because we already have an hour. I love that for
Oh,
us.
okay.
Um,
Hey.
Pretty much. But I just wanted to ask this last question and we can like wrap up the episode. How does being a black woman help or hurt you when showing up in particular spaces as yourself? I think
So,
you touched on it honestly because you
say
talked
again?
about the angry. I feel like you touched on it because you talked about the angry, the A's. You
Yes,
talked
the
about the
A's, 100%. I think often in my work around diversity and talent acquisition and just sitting in spaces where we are not the majority. I don't take the audiences that I have or the tables that I sit at, I don't take that lightly, right? And so a lot of these people, again, I've known 20 plus years, and they've watched, to your point earlier about maturation being important, they watched my maturation as I've gone through this company and kind of advanced. I say that to say there can be a time where we can get familiar, right? And start to be like, hey, girl. And I'm like, you got to show up with the business first. Because I sit there and I'm like, see, you neck rolling and you're doing all the things, and you comfortable. But that's the you've like walked in with the stereotype, you know what I mean? And we
yeah,
can get to the niceties post presenting what we need to present and showing up with the business as it should be presented, and then represent and say, how's the family, how's all the things, right? But I think that was the pivot for me as I started to ascend and get promoted. It was okay, these people, and there may be people that you haven't seen in 3 or 4 years, so they don't know what you're up to now. So now you have to bring that representative of who you are now, not
right,
who they known you to be, right? And
correct.
so, and again, you don't really know how they think about you, right? Like, because what I found in corporate is people's memories are long for certain things and short for others. Right. And so if you've had an experience where it's not been great, they remind you. They sub you a lot and be letting you know, oh, so you still doing that little, folks be like, oh, you got that little, you like, wait, hold on, what you mean? They
Little.
sub you. Yeah, they sub you. And so when I sit in these rooms and I'm at these tables, I'm good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Here's where we were at the last discussion. Here's what we're looking to do presently. Here's what we're doing presently. Here's what we're looking to do future state here. And I think the benefit is that they've known me a while and they've watched the maturation, right? The
Yeah.
spaces that I go in where people are new, I think that representation is even more important because you don't know if they've heard what they've heard. You have to show up and be opposite to what they thought was going to happen and whatever that is, right? So it has been easy for me, I think, because of my tenure, easier for me because of my tenure.
Yeah.
And I tell people all the time, I go to different schools and speak in different spaces. And I said, I don't do my job, I execute on my job. And those are two very different things, right? And we all have a job. We do our job. That's why you get paid. I execute because, and the difference is I'm already thinking 2, 3 steps ahead.
Yeah.
Like,
You have to.
here's what they're going to ask for. They don't even know they're about to ask for this, but I have it in the tuck and ready to go. And even if someone, I present this to you and say, hey, Miss Tyler, I put this together. What are your thoughts? Blah, blah, blah. I really didn't need this, but thank you for everything else. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. But I hope to have left the impression that I didn't just do what you asked and completed and executed on what you asked, but I gave you just that
More.
little tick of food for thought or another avenue to explore or whatever. And like for
Yes.
me, the accountability has been, we talk about a lot at the company about accountability framework. And I kind of live my life about around that from the simple fact is I'm very open and honest about what I can do and what my abilities are. I'm equally as vocal or equal as to talk about the things that I'm not so confident about or that I'm not sure that I can execute on. And I won't wait till the day before the deadline or where we have to say, oh, by the way, I can't do this. It's like, wait, girl. So I'm very mindful of what is your priority may not be mine and vice versa. So I speak up early and often about how things are going. I keep people looped in. It's hard, I think, for some people to see me do it because people often say, oh my God, JJ, everybody loves you. And I'm like, I said, people tolerate me because of who they believe I am adjacent to, right? So they feel like I'm gonna go run to my big brother and be like, my manager and be like, well, Tiana hurt my feelings and da-da-da. I was like, no, that's not how I operate. Like I operate in a world of professionalism and I don't
Yes.
care about people liking me so much. I care about people respecting me. And the moment disrespect happens, we have a conversation. Like I'm not gonna let it fester. I'm not gonna let it be a thing because we're at work. I'm not at a daycare center. I'm not here to try to get on cheer squad. Like I don't that like thing is crazy for me, right? It is about respect. And I think that, I've told you this, I often tell people I don't deal with feelings at work. I deal with experiences. I often tell people, here's my experience of you. It just lands different on the ear.
It
When you say
does.
feelings, people are very quick to dismiss your feelings.
Yes, they are.
Oh, you shouldn't feel that way. Oh my God, they totally like you. You shouldn't feel that way. How are you going to tell me how to feel, friend? Here's my experience of you, Tiana. When I've come to you and I've given you these examples, your dismissive tone, the way you cut me in a conversation, the way you speak over me in a meeting, it leaves one with an experience of disrespect. It just lands different on the ear. When you
It
hit
does.
people with facts versus feelings,
Yeah.
and not alternative facts, because we talked about that too. People love an alternative fact. But when you can hit people with facts and receipts and again, not from a complaining place, even when you have a complaint about somebody, just dealing with the facts and not the feelings of it, it the way it's addressed, the way it's remedied is very different than, oh girl, he always got feelings. He always talking about his feelings. It's easily dismissed. And so for me, I've been very lucky in that I've had very supportive managers more often than not. I've had an amazing board of directors. They do not look like me. They are not where I'm from. But they've all seen me in different stages of maturation and
Yes.
stages of life that they often are able to add something. And they have become my, like I said, board of directors, but most of them who are senior management, I've become a confidant or a valued partner for them as well. So when you go into these mentorships or to these coaching relationships, it is not one sided. It is, I have mentees that are, I mean, everybody's younger than me, but like I have mentees that are younger than me, and I don't ever think that they don't have something to teach me, right? And so I think helping them understand that showing up in these spaces with your intellect and with your openness and with your positivity, but also curiosity, is how you should show up in the space. You just happen to be black. But if you lead with the blackness, I can't not be black. My skin is brown. My hair is an afro puff. I'm black. Hi, I'm JJ. So that when you say to me like, I don't even see your color, look at my melanin. What you mean? It's glowing. How do you not see this? Like, child, every JJ, what do
Let's
you use? Okay, can we not start the meeting with that?
let's
Can we
stop.
not start the meeting with that?
Let's just stop. Let's stop.
Yes,
Please.
let's not. It's cringe. And so go lead with your intellect. Lead with your attitude. Lead with what it is you came in the room to lead with. Again, all the other stuff of, hey T, how's your dad? Blah blah. How's your grandma? Da, da. All of that is post giving what you need to give because you're still human. And again, if we're trying to bring the human back to humanity, we need to inquire. We don't need to go deep. How's your grandma? Okay, good. Good to hear that. How's daddy? Oh yeah, he's great. And kids, every day's okay, great. Good to see you. End of conversation. I think, and again, like I said, I've been in corporate a long time. I think there's a different view of corporate now from the different generations with regard to how invested they are. You can't want me to be invested in you if you don't invest in it. So I'm not saying that you got to be hunky dory and love everybody. I'm just saying show up. Someone asked me the other day, well, how do I get to do this? I'm like, show up. Like, I don't know how else to tell you it. Like, you trying to hate from outside the club and you can't get in. You mad. Like, what do you, girl, she showed up. That's why she here. Like, I don't understand what you mean. I'm so confused. But, I'm washed. And so I just be sitting in the cut like, okay, I'm washed. I don't know nothing. I'm just chilling. Just
Hilarious.
chilling.
No, I want. First of all, how are you hating from outside the club? You said something about um just showing up with your intellect instead of in saying this is how I experience you instead of this is how I feel about you. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's important too because you kind of take the assumed intention out of it. Like I don't know what your intention was, but let me just tell
Let me
you
tell
how
you what, right. This is how I have experienced you. Exactly.
that's so important. Even in like all relationships really
Even in a
because
good way. It's like, I just want to let you know, I said this to you, T, and when you came back with this, my
yeah.
experience is of one of being heard, of being valued. Like me coming to you and having a conversation, not a confrontation, but having a conversation to say and to give feedback. Feedback
Right.
is not synonymous with negative, right?
No.
Feedback can be great. You know, every time you go to therapy, it's not because something is not working. Things can be going really well. How do I continue this momentum? What tools can you give me? So when you go into a space with a defeatist attitude or a negative tone or a negative thought process, people listen to respond versus listening to understand probably 80% of the time. So you go in and you already like, I'm fitting to give her, well, I don't care what she's now. She might have just said that you're an amazing employee, but because you already like, you didn't hear her,
The neck.
you
The
know,
neck.
yeah, the neck be active, friend. Like, you're like, but like,
I'm screaming.
because you're already positioned to assume that you're going to hear something negative,
Right.
you're
That's
coming in
what you
negative.
hear. And that's
Yeah,
what
that's
you
how you show up. That's how you show up.
Yeah.
So, you know, I I try to restore my faith in humanity. They're humans that I truly love, and I almost the people that I love, I almost judge them a little more harsh because they know me. And I'm like, you knew how I was gonna show up here.
Guilty of that.
I'll
Guilty.
be like, friend, you know who I be. Why we doing this? Um, but again, I give everyone grace. And I want people to learn from this conversation to give yourself grace, right? Like
Yes.
you are all works in progress. And
Yes.
people, we've grown up hearing practice makes improvement. Practice makes perfect. I say practice makes improvement. Like
Yes.
the more that you do something, the more comfortable you get with doing that thing, the better you do that thing.
Yeah.
I don't know that God wants us to be perfect, right? He wants you to be the best human. He wants you to be the best parent you can be. And given whatever tools you have, we also again afford our parents or our caregivers some grace because more often than not they did the best they could. We know some people have had challenges. Some people were not cut out to be parents, but
No,
we want to give people the benefit of you gave me what you could
correct.
and I have to accept that. You know what I mean? Like there's nothing else I could do about it.
And
But
that
that's how I feel
is
about it.
and that is authentic. You can only do what you can do. And
That's it.
I think that's the premise of authenticity, just to bring it all back. Uh, just try. Like, and
Pretty
do your
much.
best. And that's really all we can do, especially at this point where we are now. Like, show up as you and do what you can
That's
because
it.
there's so many people out here that don't want you to be you. Please.
Facts. Facts.
You don't have to be those people and you don't have to associate with those people. There, you have it in you. You have everything you need in you.
And it's
So,
not a beef. It's really not.
no.
It's no beef. Like I just don't. You're not my people. You're not my person. I engage with you because I have to do it for work or for church or what. I do it, and we move on. Like there's no feelings attached to it. And I think everything is a feeling, and everything is not a thing. You know
I
what I
mean,
mean? So
I have to learn this, JJ. Me. I have to learn this.
she's like, I'm that person.
Me.
I am people.
You're talking about me. But it's so true. It's just like I told somebody this other day, I'm like, you could be mad and ruminating on something that somebody has moved on from
Facts.
1 year ago. Like they no longer care. They don't care.
But they're not even thinking about it to your point in the way that you're thinking about it. Like when you're mad at somebody, like forgiveness is for you, it's not for them, right?
Ugh,
And so,
child.
because again, and the forgiveness is, I understand this happened. I hate that this has happened, and working through those feelings. It may take some longer than others, but when you see this person, we're human. There are feelings that gonna kind of bubble up. But
Right.
that you should, we are all allowed to have emotion. Just don't let
Yes.
the emotion have you. When you move out of emotion, when you move out of this hate and this hurt and all, listen, and again, practice makes improvement. Like I'm, I can hold a grudge, but then I'm holding on to something super heavy. Girl, that child is living her best life. She don't care about you. She ain't even
Okay.
thinking about you in that way. He don't
At
know that
all.
you feel this
At
way.
all.
He has no clue. So do yourselves a favor. Everything is not a thing. And even if it is a thing and it hurts you, work through that hurt for you, not for
Yes.
them, not for anybody else. Do it for you. And that's basically what it is. Like,
I love that. I love
just
that.
do the work. Show up. Show up
For you.
for you.
Show up
For
for
you
you.
first and foremost. Because you can't do anything else for anybody else if you don't show up for yourself. So
I don't need to preach. Okay? Y'all see why JJ is here. I hope. Because she
I am
just
so honored
preached
to be here. I'm honored
for
to
an
be here.
hour and 15 minutes. Okay? She just preached. She just, please, give
Listen.
her a raise. Okay?
Listen,
No.
I hope your audience gleans something from our conversation. I hope they take a snippet of it and really, look to evaluate what's important to them, right? Because again, at the end of the day, only that individual can determine what's important. Like
Correct.
again, I tell my sons three things: be intentional, be impactful, be great. I'm intentional with my words, my actions, and my deeds. My hope is to impact people in a positive way, in a way that moves them to where they need to go, to inspire them to be who they want to be. The greatness comes when someone comes back and says, I had a young lady say to me the other day, JJ, you were the first woman in finance that I spoke to 4 years ago. And she is graduating college in May. And she's
Oh.
going to Barclays. And she is, JJ, I hope you know. And she's like, do you remember me? I was like, I literally see you every year. What you mean? Like, do I remember you? But that makes me know that the work that I do is important. It is valuable
Absolutely.
because I'm
Yeah.
impacting lives that I didn't know that I would impact, right? She makes it her business to see me every time I visit that university. And she will always be a mentee in some way, shape, or form, right? So the greatness comes when you get a relationship like you and I had that organically just met out of kind of kikiing at this development day, having some conversations and manifesting into me being on your podcast. Like it is genuine because it's the conversations we've had without a camera, without a mic, right? And
Yes.
how do we share this with people so they get a little bit of, no one has it all figured out, but here's some tools to help you figure it out. Here is, maybe this is the first day someone decides to listen to your podcast, sees the visuals, and they open their toolkit to put some of these tools in, to put some of this good intention into. So I just hope that your audience appreciates your willingness to be very candid about your journey, what's happening with you, and hoping to pour into people that we know and people that we don't know. We won't know many of the people that listen to podcasts and all the stuff. You don't know them, but
No.
you impact them in so many different ways. So thank you for the honor of being on your podcast.
Oh,
It's been my
thank
pleasure.
you so much, JJ, for being here. Ugh, I love this. Ever since I met you, I was like, I'm gonna need to get her podcast because yeah, it only makes sense. But I just love you so much. You already know.
Same.
Um, and I appreciate you just for being you. Like I try to tell you as often as possible, I genuinely appreciate you being you and all of the things you do, all of the work you do for just people. You are a people person that don't really care for the people, but
Listen,
you care for the people.
I'm trying to tell you, I tell people all the time, I'm not antisocial. I just hate people. There is a difference. They
I'm
disappoint you, friend.
fair.
They will disappoint you,
Okay.
friend. But I,
They
I,
do.
I have hope for humanity. So that's my work, to just continue to be hopeful.
Yes.
Again, by no means am I telling people to sacrifice themselves for others. Like self care is protecting yourself and
Yes.
finding safe spaces for yourself and places that you can exist as your authentic self. You should never have to make yourself small for anybody. As women, as black women, as black men, as this community, take up all the room in take up all the space in the room. Like, never telling you to be small. But
Yeah.
what that means for each individual means what it means for each individual. Like, what it means for JJ is going to be different than it means for Sarah or for Tiana or for Jamal. It'll mean something different. But I want it all to mean what you want it to mean. And work at being your best you. Don't worry about everything else. Everything else will come.
We will end it there. Okay.
All right.
Thank you so much again, JJ, for
Thank
being
you.
here. Just spreading all your gems that I get for free. Okay. I feel like I should start paying you for this. But I truly appreciate you. And I think there are so many things people can take away from this episode. So thank you for sharing your experience and being vulnerable in your experience on this earth, in corporate world, as a black woman, as a woman, all of the things. I really appreciate it. And y'all, I'll see y'all in the next episode. Okay? Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Bye.
Bye.